All right, friends, this is a big day for us. We are no longer doing the Todd and Yasmeen show. We have to bring in another human into our lives. Todd.
Yeah.
It's between you and Winston as far as the people who I speak to the most.
Winston, your dog, by the way.
Yes, Winston the dog and Todd. So I think that at this point in our lives, we need more people, and we are opening up the conversation. So this is our very first guest.
I'm looking for the confetti. We should have some confetti, balloons, perhaps. It's a banner day.
You know, cheers.
Yeah, we're actually talking to someone else outside of the you and I. I'm really our first guest is really. I can't believe this is actually happening. This is someone that I've known for decades now in my life, and he has got, quite the story for people out there who ever heard of the 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon. He's one of the co-creators of that. Started, many years ago in mid-90s in Albright College outside of Reading, Pennsylvania. We'll get into that. He then went on to open up his own successful restaurant in Chicago called the Bad Apple, and went on to have a long-standing successful operation, which is really hard to do. But then his signing off moment came when he said, you know what? I'm at the pinnacle of sort of my career, and I'm doing a peace out. I'm going to an island, a Portuguese island, where he lives now with his wife, and they are now, retired, and he's not even, 50, or he's at 50. We got to get that correction.
Just a normal trajectory. Just a normal life plans there.
Yeah, from 6 degrees of separation to retiring before you're 50 on a Portuguese island. Okay, so let's bring in my friend, Mr. Craig Fass. Craig, welcome, my friend.
Good evening, good morning. I guess good morning for you guys.
Yeah, still we're in multiple time zones, right? Because I'm in Las Vegas, Yasmeen's in Austin. And what time zone are you technically in here?
For me, it's I have no idea. It's 6 p.m. So what are you, like 10 a.m. or something?
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. for me here.
You're in the Mr. Mom have a scotch time, and I'm in a beer zone, I guess. I don't know how it works.
It's so funny in prepping for this too. I just sort of decided to do a little bit of research, and what I realized, maybe you don't even realize, is that we just passed a pretty significant anniversary, which was on April 10th, 1994. Do you remember where you were, or I would say that was maybe the broadcast date, to give you a hint?
I gotta imagine the Jon Stewart Show when he was on.
Yes.
I think Fox or MTV.
MTV.
There's some gentlemen visiting us from Albright College in Pennsylvania. It's Mike Cinelli, Craig Fass, and Brian Turtle. And here's why we have them on the show. Fellas?
Well, we believe that Kevin Bacon is the center of the whole acting universe.
We were just up late. We had watched, I want to say, like Tremors and Footloose. I don't know. One of the TV shows, which had cable back then, had like a weird Kevin Bacon day. And there was a commercial for the air up there where he goes and teaches people how to play basketball, which I don't know why that wasn't a success, but it wasn't.
Shocking.
And we just started talking about, like, oh, he's worked with this person. And, he's not a mainstream actor, but at that point, he had done a lot of movies. But he wasn't like the household name, but he's worked with this person and that person and this person. And I was like, yeah, he's worked with Jack Nicholson. And they were like, no, he didn't, but Jack worked with this guy, worked with this guy. We were like, wait a minute, what was that? So then we just started putting it together little by little.
They believe that Kevin Bacon is the center of the entire acting universe.
So Craig and I went to Albright College together outside of Reading, Pennsylvania, and or in Reading, Pennsylvania, I should say. And I remember that during those semesters, like you guys started playing this game, and it kind of caught fire even on campus. And I was always terrible at it, but you guys, it was like kind of genius in your own way to be able to say, how the F did you get from, Morgan Freeman and Kevin Bacon or whatever? I don't even know.
Okay, we're going to try one real quick just to get you guys going. Joe Piscopo.
Joe Piscopo. Worked with Danny DeVito and Wise Guys.
Right.
Danny DeVito worked with Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack Nicholson was in A Few Good Men with Kevin Bacon.
There you go, Kevin Bacon.
It was hysterical to then see that take off. And next thing we knew, you guys were on the Jon Stewart Show on MTV back when he was on MTV. And then you guys were on Howard Stern a couple of times, which was like really just insane. And then just most recently in February during the Super Bowl, there was a Budweiser commercial that was playing off of the Kevin and Bacon name game.
They say all people are 6 degrees of separation away from each other.
So the easy version of this sort of signing off would be, so you guys do this, you make millions of dollars, and that's why you're retired now in an island off Portugal, correct?
Not true. Yeah, we split. We had a book and a board game, and I believe we split 12 grand 4 ways because we had a lawyer. So it wasn't exactly the money-making scheme I told my father it was. He's like, I don't even know what you're doing, and you're not going to make money off this. And I was like, Dad, we're writing a book. And it was like an LA Times bestseller, but it was like $3.95. And then everyone gets their beak wet, and you're left with like, oh, I was excited. I was like, that was like the most money I made pretty much until I was in my mid-30s.
As we then, go into time warp here for the next 10 years after that point, but then you post, graduate life, get into the restaurant business. You start to learn the trade, start to learn how to be a chef. You start in kind of northern Jersey, and then you make your way to Chicago. Yeah. And this is really for me, where your life really gets, in terms of signing off and what you achieved and what you persevered through, really gets interesting, because you get to Chicago and you sort of work in a restaurant, but you're making nothing. You're eating at the restaurant to make ends meet.
Yeah. We got my first job, the restaurant in Chicago. I was making, this was 2000, and I was 27 years old. I was making $60 a day before taxes, but I learned a lot, and I worked with some amazing people. I met my wife there, and it kind of, sparked my interest in food so much and got me so much more in tune with, I love cooking for people, but what type of food I wanted to be cooking, who I wanted to be cooking for, what kind of chef I wanted to be. So yeah, it kind of jump-started everything for me.
So during that process, you got the chance to actually open your first restaurant, which you thought, okay, this is finally the break that I really been looking for. This is my opportunity.
Yeah, I've kind of always been somebody where you got to create your own luck in this world. We got ourselves a small business loan, sold everything we had, leveraged it, opened up a little tiny restaurant. I think we had 65 seats. We had no business doing it. We really, I learned a lot. It set us up for what happened a decade later, but man, we struggled, didn't take any money home, paid our staff. Sometimes we broke even, sometimes we made $1,000, sometimes we lost $1,000. It was just year after year of year. We were critically acclaimed. We were best new restaurant, Bon Appetit in Chicago Magazine. But like my wife and I say, if you're cooking for 13 people on a Wednesday, Thursday night, you're not very good. Yeah. So it kind of changed my perspective about like a lot. Again, I had to put my ego aside, and my wife has to deal with my ego. But it's like, it's like, yeah, bless her. But it's like a lot of times that you have to, especially in that industry, you have to realize, what do you want to do? Do you want to cook for people, or do you want to cook your food for nobody? And it took me a long time to kind of come around to that, because once I started finding the food I love to cook, the passion came back to me, where it was food I love to make, and then people are enjoying it. That's a win-win for me.
Yeah, I mean, I love that story too, and it's during that moment, right, where we've all had, whether it's in our professional lives or personal lives, where we're like, looking up and like, oh my goodness, this is not working. Like, this is what I thought I wanted, or I thought I had achieved a certain milestone, or I thought once I got to this point, it was kind of, not that hard work wouldn't be involved, but it'd be like, I'd be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And then you guys were at this place where you had this restaurant you loved, and then you realized, man, we gotta shut it down. This isn't going to work. And it's like, now what? And you guys begin to toil back again in sort of the restaurant world in Chicago for a number of years, right?
Yeah, it was a tough time. We did this for like 5 years of working 6 days a week, open to close, bare bones staff. 1 day a week, I would lose the coin toss and have to wait tables, and nobody wins when I'm in front of the house. I'm a back of the house person. I'm not fit for public consumption. So it was like a bad scene when I'm on the floor. They'd be like, oh, Craig's got his nasty pants on. Oh no, what's about to happen? So you'd be bartending, bussing tables, but we were just trying to make it work. I believed in us as a team. I believed in us as a restaurant. But like I said, if no one's coming in, no one's coming in. So we had it on the market for a number of years. And luckily, a guy came in and he had the same dream we had to run a small, mediocre restaurant in a weird location and not make any money. So, which is weird. But his dream was my dream, and his dream got me out of my nightmare. So it's a win for us. I don't know. So we did that for like 5 years, and then we transitioned. Then I wouldn't say we made any money because it was like we didn't make any money for 5 years. So it was like my parents were like, "Oh, you're sold, you're out." I'm like, "Yeah, but I have bills to pay. Like, we're back here, back at square zero." And now I'm in my 30s, mid 30s. And I think, you're in your mid 30s, people are making money. Your friends you went to college with, your friends are making money, and you're pulling in 16 grand a year, split 2 ways with you and your wife. And you're like,
isn't this the time of everyone's life who kind of in that crossroads? We talked about this, who you see your friends, either they're in their chosen fields or they sort of signed off earlier on their chosen fields, and now they're like selling real estate or mortgages, right? And they're starting to pop, and you're in your mid 30s, and you're like, man, what are we doing?
Yeah, like I can't even buy a beer today.
Then with all of that experience and all of that, I have to imagine heartache. How did y'all get Texas? Nice. Texas is taking over my personality. How did you all have the courage to do it again and start another restaurant?
Courage / stupidity and stubbornness and brickheadedness. So I don't know. We lived in this one neighborhood in Chicago called Lincoln Square.
Oh,
and we lived there
beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah, we loved it too, and we lived there for a long time. But every time we would go out, we would leave the neighborhood. There was nothing for us there. Nothing for a mid 30-year-old who's a professional. Well, they're professionals, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? So there was nothing for us in the neighborhood, and we found this location. And I had a couple rules. My wife was like, I'm not doing this again. You're insane. And I was like, Mandy, we're gonna have a good business partner. He'll help run the front of the house, and he was terrible, so that didn't work out. But we found this location, and I was like, it has to be on a corner. It needs to have high ceilings, multiple rooms. So if you're slow, you can close them off. You can do parties, you can do banquets. We didn't have a lot of money, but we took all of it and put it on this restaurant. And we did the build out ourselves. We broke down the walls, painted the walls, exposed the brick, built the back bar. We do everything ourselves. We believe in that. So that was kind of our mentality.
Yeah, and so you guys take this corner bar and you develop a neighborhood sort of gem. Yeah. And I think people in and maybe even out of Chicago will recognize the name. What was the name of the restaurant?
It was the Bad Apple. It still is the Bad Apple. My wife and I have, at this point, 20 years of culinary experience cooking. So I wanted to still cook good food. I just wanted to make it accessible for everybody. I wanted parents to come in there. I wanted kids to come in. I want women to come in. Men will come wherever. You got burgers and beer, they're going to be there. So we were able to find a little niche market in that neighborhood where the parents loved us, the kids loved us. We kept our prices really low. I worked the line. My wife did the front of the house. So we worked with the staff every single step of the way. I worked the line until the day I left. And my wife worked 80 hours a week until the day she left for 10 years. It was tough. It was tough.
I mean, at this point, you guys have been running the Bad Apple for a number of years, and it was the definition of a success. People were sort of waiting to get inside. This thing was humming. You're in a great city and a great food city in Chicago. I mean, this is the top of the pyramid, and then you guys say, you know what, we're out.
Yeah.
What happened in that process? Why did you guys sign off?
We've been feeding about 2,500 people a week, going through about 1,800 burgers a week for 7-8 years. And then we finally just sat there one day and we were like, I watched, like chefs in our industry drink themselves into an early grave, have heart attacks, commit suicide, drug and alcohol issues, like you name it. And it's a tough, brutal industry. And the amount we were working and what we were doing, I was like, I'm 45. I can't keep this up for another 10 years. I'm going to die here. I'm going to have a heart attack and die here. That it was hard. But it kind of got to the point where we both kind of met at that point where we were just like, you know what, we're halfway through our lease. We have 10 years left. So let's give ourselves 1 year. We've got something to sell now. We told our whole staff, we were completely honest with our staff. A lot of them have been with us for 10 years. So we said, guys, we want to see what life is like outside of here. We needed to give ourselves an opportunity for a different life. Right at the end of that year, a guy came in and he loved our idea. He loved the concept and he wanted it. We were able to step away, at the end of January in 2019, 1 year before COVID.
And we talk about this signing off moment, right? And being in a successful, or what is perceived to be a successful place in your personal and professional life, and making that decision because internally the battle. But what was your biggest fear when you guys were considering signing off?
Man, I think it was a twofold. One was, are we dumb? Are we making the dumbest move of our lives? And am I cutting my career short? I love cooking for people, and my ego, was very much tied with that. And I had been a chef for so long that I was worried that I was going to miss it so much. Miss taking care of people. I still miss taking care of people. I still miss feeding people, but I don't miss running a restaurant for a day, not one day. So, yeah.
I'd imagine that's the mark of that was the right decision.
Yeah. It was a big ego check to let go of that, of something you had worked so long, so many years, to make a name, to solidify yourself, to build a company, to build a brand, and then to say, hey, I want to walk away from this. It was definitely a weird experience. My first day or two off were really weird once I was gone. And then like the third day, I kind of just sat on the couch and all of this stress and pressure left and it was leaving me. And I didn't even know you do it for so long. I had no idea I was that anxiety ridden. My friends were like, you're crazy. You're the most anxious person I know. I had no idea. I thought that was just normal.
But when it's part of your personality, you don't know that, right?
Yeah, I only knew that. The pressure, the stress, the BS. So I felt it all leave. And it was a weird feeling. And I kind of felt naked, alone, scared, all of it, and relieved that I don't have to deal with this anymore. And I can't believe I'm able to walk away at this point.
I think, how much of that do you think is as, Yasmeen and I have shared our signing off moments and that moment where you're kind of those initial days and even weeks where you realize like the boundaries that your previous life had put up for you, yeah, maybe they were restrictive, but they also helped sort of define you in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
and now that those boundaries are missing, it was kind of like a feeling like you're almost floating in space, to kind of use that analogy, right? You're like, what's
100%.
happening?
Yeah. Yeah. It was really weird. I sat there and for some reason I'm just crying on the couch. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, it's like a Wednesday afternoon. I'm like, what's hello? And yeah, it was awkward, but I've grown really comfortable with it. I've grown. I realized how attached I was to that, how attached I was to the industry, to cooking for people, taking care of people, treating people. I didn't take care of myself. And then you get to look at yourself and see what you're about and experience your life. And that was a big thing for us, is like, we want to see what life was like outside of doing this, because most people don't have an end game for a restaurant. They work it until it closes or catches on fire. I don't know. Like, we were just lucky enough to have seen a moment in time and jump on it, for sure.
And looking back, what you talked about, what you got right, but what do you regret, or what would you look back at that process and want to maybe change, or and maybe there isn't anything, maybe you feel like
I really don't know. Like, it's not. There's no regrets. I have no regrets in that. I miss my staff and my team a lot. I really miss working with them. So we just have a different relationship now. I can't yell at them and tell them what to do. They don't listen. I guess the hardest thing was letting go of the ego, letting go of what you had worked so hard for so long, and what else is out there. But that's what we were excited about. What else was out there?
Yeah, and just real quick about the ego, it's funny because I think Yasmeen and I can relate to that, because the ego, like for us, would be like, oh, people would perceive that as the ego of, oh, I'm on TV, I'm this person publicly.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it's more like it's more of an internal ego.
Yeah,
like
100%. Yeah, I never got into the big ego maniac chef thing. It's more of your identity and how you identify yourself and what's inside of you and what's driven you for so long.
What is, as we kind of wrap this up, what when you look back, what was the best piece of advice that maybe you had received during that process? And also conversely now, what is the best piece of advice you'd like to pass along to anyone listening to this who might be contemplating their own signing off moment?
Do it. Like, you only live once in this weird world that's floating rock in the sky. Go have fun. Go see what life is like. Go do what you want to do, what makes you happy, and chase that. I always tell everyone, go fail, go make a mess of things, and you learn from failure. How many of your successes you're like, I learned from making mistakes, from failing. And if you go out there and you're trying and you keep trying, that's what this is about, like taking care of your family, taking care of your friends, be a good person, and go out and keep trying different things. So if you're in a position where you're thinking about it and you want to try a new life, man. Don't have any regrets. I don't want to have any regrets when I'm older and I should have. I don't want to be one of those people. I want to just be out there and experiencing life to the fullest as much as I can.
Speaking of experiencing life to the fullest, our final question is always,
okay,
while you're experiencing life, watching television, streaming shows or movies, what are you watching right now? We're saving marriages, so you don't have to channel surf. People
all right,
anymore?
What do we watch? Well, we watch. We went through a little bit of a rough winter on the side of our mountain, so we watch a lot of stuff. Right now, we're watching Yellow Jackets. Really like Yellow Jackets.
Ooh, okay.
So good. It's so good.
The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Oh, what is that on?
What was that on? Showtime.
Okay.
That is excellent. That was really smart, really clever, really well done series. Once a year, I make it a point to watch Band of Brothers. At some point every year, I'm just like, I'm going to put this on. And I'm right now watching The the Timothy Oliphant show. Justified.
Oh, Justified.
yes.
Yes.
Never watched it before.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good. In the
So I get on my
hollows.
exercise bike,
in the
I
hollows
throw
of
that
Kentucky.
shit on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at.
Well, joining us from a Portuguese island off the coast, really, of Morocco, Craig Fass. Thank you for being our first guest, man. It's been a pleasure, and you've lived quite a life, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me. We've set the bar low, so sky's the limit now, guys.